sound fail, lighting fail. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I don't have any natural light, so I apologize for the horrible lighting of this video and for the background. This is the most solid wall I can find in my house right now that is not currently stacked with boxes because we're moving. So everything is just, it's the only wall that doesn't have crap stacked up against it. Anyway, so a lot of you guys have been asking specific questions about adoption, and I rarely do videos where I just sit down and talk to you guys and kind of go over some questions and kind of clear the air. My cat is gonna knock this video camera over. You're a troublemaker. So a lot of y'all have been asking questions specifically related to our adoption. So I kind of wanted to come in and start maybe like a series. I think I'm gonna do a series instead of just sitting down, reading every single question that I get, and then answering all the questions in one video. I feel like that gets boring. I feel like you're not gonna remember half of the stuff because it is very detailed and there's just a lot to it. So we're gonna start small. We're gonna start small. I have a band-aid on my finger. Knife incident. I was making dinner. Okay, so one of the main questions that I get, questions, comments, it's kind of usually along the same lines as, I'm interested in adopting, I really have a heart for it, how do I get started? What do I do? I know when we started the adoption process, I had no clue where to start. I knew that we needed a home study, but other than that, I had no idea how to get started. Y'all, excuse the hair. I don't know what it's doing. I'm rocking the 80s teased look, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what it's doing. But I didn't really know where to get started either. So the first thing you're going to need to figure out is whether you're doing a domestic adoption or an international adoption. Now, specifically, I cannot speak on terms of domestic adoption because I have no experience in domestic adoption. So this is going to apply specifically to international adoption because every country is different and every country is going to have different guidelines. So specifically for our country, it was Ukraine. At the time of our adoption, Ukraine allowed independent adoptions, meaning we didn't have to go through an agency. So we adopted our child independently, which meant that we could go pick any social worker we wanted as long as they were licensed in our state. We could get any social worker that we wanted, and that's what we did. And we found an amazing social worker and got our home study done that way. However, I would like you to keep in mind that most countries, including Ukraine now, are now Hague certified countries, meaning they do require that you go through an accredited adoption agency, a licensed and accredited adoption agency. You cannot do independent adoptions, at least not via Ukraine any longer. I'm pretty sure it's the same for Bulgaria. I know that China is Hague. I think Korea is Hague. I'm not sure about Ethiopia or Uganda. That's something you would have to look into if those are countries you're interested in, but it makes a big difference. Most people do prefer to go through a licensed and accredited agency regardless of whether their country is Hague or not. It's really honestly the smartest thing to do. They are going to do all of your legwork, your paperwork, everything. You are paying them for this service. So you can really count that they're going to do a good job. And they want to see all of these kids find homes just as much as you want to bring your child home. I keep pushing the cat away. He won't leave me alone. So that's where you start. You need to find a social worker. And if you're going through an adoption agency, then they can help you with that. They can provide you with a social worker. They can give you a whole list of social workers, and you know, you go and you get it done. What a home study entails is you usually have about 2 or 3 meetings. So you'll meet with your social worker 2 or 3 times, and they'll go over, like, they do like a small psych eval. They want to know your life history, and I mean your life history. Like, I was born on this day, and then the next day I did this, like detailed life history. They want to know if you're on any types of medications. Are you on anxiety medication, depression medication? Have you ever been divorced? Have you ever had any type of drug problem? A lot of these things can be red flags to an agency, or especially to your intended country. If you have any type of mental illness, typically countries do not like that. If you've been divorced, some countries don't even like that. If you're a single parent, it really depends. Now, if you really have a heart for adoption and you have all of these issues going on, you can have a doctor write a waiver stating that you are in competent mental health to care for said child. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't work. It really depends on the country that you are adopting from. I would also recommend that even if you're scared, if you're on some sort of anti-anxiety medication, depression medication, anything like that, don't be afraid. You need to tell your social worker about it, because your social worker is there to help you, and it will really make things worse further on down the line if they find out that you are indeed on said medication and you didn't mention it. So that shows that you were not being honest up front, which is also red flag. For us, the biggest hurdles personally for us was just our age. We're so young. My husband was 25, I was 26 when we wanted to pursue an international adoption. We wanted to adopt 2 special needs children, the oldest of which was 10 years old, which means that I was 15 years old when Narkis was born. Or no, I was 16. My husband was 15 when he was born. So essentially it was like me being a teen parent, and they didn't really like that. The rule is you have to have a 15-year age gap between you and the child. So legally we fell into the proper bounds, but there was a lot of questions with us adopting out of birth order, adopting special needs. Do we have experience with special needs children? We were just brutally honest with our social worker from the get-go. And explaining to him where our heart was and the research we were doing and preparing for it. And it was hard, and looking back on it, I am in some ways surprised that we got as far as we did. But that's where you need to start. Social worker first, and you need to kind of get all your ducks in a row. Home study typically costs between $500 to $3,000. I know that's a huge price variation, but it really does vary by your state, and especially if you're going through an accredited agency or if you're going on your own. Sometimes agencies will allow you to find a social worker on your own, provided that they approve them first. It really depends on what your agency is. For us, we went through Reese's Rainbow. Now, Reese's Rainbow is not an adoption agency. They make no claims to be an adoption agency. They only advocate for children with Down syndrome and other special needs, and they are a grant organization, and they help to raise those funds to get you to the country, to your child's country, to bring them home. I cannot even say how much that helped us. We fundraised from the time we knew we were going to adopt until the time we got home. So that's the second thing that I would highly recommend you get started on right away, is fundraising. Do car washes, do bake sales. I sold Advocare for a while. That didn't pan out very well for me. But I did a lot of things. I made crafts. I did auctions. Gosh, we did so many things. We did a lot of stuff through our church as well. And just really being honest with people and telling them your story and letting them know where your heart is. Adoption is not cheap. International adoption especially is not cheap. To bring both of our boys home, from the time we started home study until the time we arrived home, we spent right at $30,000. So we had $30,000 that we had to raise. We didn't have $30,000 sitting in our bank account, but God made a way. God made it work. And I would just like to encourage any of you who have a heart for adoption, whether it's special needs adoption, older child adoption, whether you're adopting a healthy child, it doesn't matter. Every child needs a home. So I'm not talking specifically about special needs adoption here. Any type of adoption, you're going to need to have a really good support system, and be prepared to spend money, and be prepared for setbacks. That's another big thing. Be prepared for setbacks. You have this ideal timeline in your head of, okay, I'm going to do home study here, I'm gonna get my dossier prepared here, I'm gonna send it to the country here, they're gonna approve me here. It doesn't always work out like that. We had quite a few denials and paperwork and setbacks, and we had to redo a lot of things. And from the time we started our home study till the time we brought our boys home, it was exactly 1 year. So, and it really just depends on your personal case. Every case is different. Every country is different. But again, I'm speaking specifically right now about Ukraine because that is what I have experience in. So that's really it. That's all I'm going to talk about for this specific video. To get started, you need to find a social worker. You need to find your adoption agency. Make sure they are licensed and accredited and all have all the right paperwork. Make sure that they will work for whatever country your child is from. Some adoption agencies don't work with Ukraine, and some do, and some work with Ethiopia and don't work with China. You know, it really just depends on the agency. And the second thing that you need to do is make sure that you have all of your fundraising in order. You need to make sure that no matter what, you have all of those upfront funds raised before you start anything. You need to make sure you can afford your home study. You need to make sure you can do all of the work that's going to go into the home study, all of the paperwork, and you need to make sure that you have enough money to get your dossier together and to compile that and get that sent off. If you have all of that money together before you start, then you have time to fundraise to get the rest in before you travel. That's just my recommendation. There are so many different ways to do it. If you guys have any specific questions, if I kind of rambled and maybe didn't explain it the way you wanted me to explain it, let me know. Ask in the comments below and I will do my best to answer it. Yeah, so this is I'm just gonna do a video like this probably once a week. Hopefully the lighting won't be this bad every single time. Hopefully I won't do it at 10 o'clock at night every single time either. But all my kids are asleep, so it was the only chance I had to sit down and kind of chat with you guys. But yeah, that's about it for this video. I'm gonna do this once a week, so stay tuned. Anyway, I will talk to you guys later. I hope y'all are all doing wonderful, and thank you so much to all of my new subscribers. I know that it's hard when you just come into watching a family and you see all of these just daily vlogs. That's usually all I have time to do is daily vlogs. So when I have a chance to sit down and talk to you guys, I really want to answer your questions and I really want to be helpful and informative and just really kind of reach out to you guys in terms of the adoption world, because I feel like it is kind of overlooked, especially the worlds of special needs adoption, and I really want to advocate for that and, I don't know, just spread awareness, I suppose. So I will talk to you guys later, and I hope you guys are all doing wonderful. Bye guys!